What if the most powerful weapon you have is not your words, but your silence? Most people spend their entire lives defending themselves. They explain, they justify, they beg others to understand. But what if the need to explain is actually a prison? What if true power begins the moment you stop explaining yourself? This is the story of a man who discovered that truth, and it changed everything. In a busy town called Millborough, there lived a young teacher named John. He worked at a local high school. He had passion, creativity, and a deep love for teaching. But there was one problem. John cared too much about what other people thought. Every decision he made, he explained. Every teaching method he tried, he justified. Every step he took, he defended. His life had become an endless cycle of seeking approval from people who never truly wanted to understand him. John had been teaching at Millbrook High for 5 years. He taught history to 10th graders. He worked 12-hour days preparing lessons, grading papers, and helping struggling students. But no matter what he achieved, someone always had criticism. The principal would say, "Stick to the textbook, John. Your creative methods confuse students." Some fellow teachers whispered, "He thinks he's better than us with his modern techniques." His relatives asked, "Why are you still teaching? Get a better job with more money." Even some parents complained, "Why doesn't he teach the traditional way?" And every single time, John explained himself. He showed research papers about active learning. He spent hours in meetings defending his methods. He wrote long emails trying to justify every decision. Deep inside, John was exhausted, but he couldn't stop. He believed that if he could just explain clearly enough, if he could just prove himself one more time, everyone would finally support him. But they didn't. Instead, the criticism continued. Slowly, John's passion began to fade. He stopped experimenting. He stopped trying new ideas. He started teaching safe, boring textbook lessons that no one could question. His classroom, which once buzzed with energy and curiosity, became quiet, lifeless, predictable. One afternoon, John sat alone in the staff room. He stared at another email he had spent an hour writing, explaining to a parent why he used group discussions instead of traditional lectures. That's when an old janitor named Mr. Peterson walked in. Mr. Peterson had worked at the school for 35 years. He had seen hundreds of teachers come and go. "Still here, son?" Mr. Peterson asked, noticing John's tired eyes. "Just finishing some emails," John replied without looking up. Mr. Peterson glanced at the screen and chuckled. "Another explanation letter?" John looked up, surprised. "How did you know?" Mr. Peterson sat down across from him. "Because I've watched you do this for 5 years. You're one of the best teachers in this school. But you're also the most tired. Do you know why?" John shook his head. "Because you're trying to convince everyone that you're doing the right thing. But here's what I learned in 35 years. The right people don't need convincing, and the wrong people won't understand even if you explain forever." John felt something break inside. "But if I don't explain," he said quietly, "they'll make my life harder." Mr. Peterson leaned forward. "Let me ask you something. When did their understanding become more valuable than your peace of mind?" John had no answer. The words hit him harder than any criticism ever had. Mr. Peterson continued, "I've seen the greatest teachers this school ever had. You know what they all had in common? They didn't waste energy defending themselves. They focused on doing exceptional work. The students loved them. The results spoke. The doubters eventually became silent, without a single argument." He stood up. "Your students' success is your proof. Everything else is noise." Then he walked out. John sat there in silence. That question echoed in his mind all night. When did their understanding become more valuable than my peace? He thought about the years he had wasted trying to win approval. How many ideas had he killed just to avoid criticism? How many dreams had he quietly buried because someone might not agree? For the first time, something clicked. Maybe I don't owe everyone an explanation. Maybe silence is not weakness. Maybe silence is self-respect. That night, John made a decision. He told himself, I will no longer explain myself to people who aren't genuinely trying to understand. The next week, everything changed. When the principal criticized his teaching style, John calmly said, "I appreciate your input." No long defense. When fellow teachers mocked his methods, he smiled and said, "Let's look at the results at the end of the year." No arguments. When parents questioned him, he replied, "Your child's progress will speak for itself." No desperate explanations. At first, people were shocked. They pushed harder. They criticized louder. Some became more aggressive. They were used to the old John, the one who explained everything. But John stayed calm. And inside, it wasn't easy. There were nights he almost wrote long emails again. Moments when doubt whispered, "Maybe they're right. Maybe you should go back to the safe way." He almost gave in. Almost. But each time he chose silence. And instead of defending himself, he poured all his energy into teaching. Something powerful started happening. First, John found peace. Without constant arguments, his mind became clear. His passion slowly returned. Then his creativity exploded. He designed lessons that made history come alive. Debates, role plays, projects that forced students to think deeply. Second, the results became undeniable. By the end of the year, his students scored the highest marks in the district. Students who once hated history started loving it. Parents who once complained began thanking him. Third, respect came naturally. The principal began using his methods as examples. Colleagues started asking for advice. The same parents who doubted him now defended him to others. John didn't win by arguing. He won by becoming impossible to ignore. 1 year later, John was preparing for class when Mr. Peterson walked in holding a newspaper. There was an article about Millbrook High winning the Best Teaching Innovation Award. John's name was featured prominently. "Congratulations, son," Mr. Peterson said with a smile. "You finally learned the secret." John's eyes filled with gratitude. "That question you asked me changed everything." Mr. Peterson nodded. "You were never weak. You just gave your power away every time you tried to justify yourself. The moment you stopped, you became unstoppable." John understood now. People don't respect endless explanations. They respect quiet confidence backed by results. Mr. Peterson gently patted his shoulder. Lions don't explain why they're kings. They just are. John's life transformed the day he stopped explaining himself. He wasn't trapped by difficult people. He was trapped by his need for their approval. Not everyone will understand your path, and that's okay. Some will question you. Some will criticize you. Some will doubt you. Your job is not to make them understand. Your job is to stay true to yourself and let your results speak. Mountains do not justify their height. Oceans do not defend their depth. They simply exist. And so should you. One decision, choosing silence over endless explanation, can transform your entire life. If you believe this story carries a message worth sharing, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories. I'll be back soon with another powerful life lesson.